Howdy y'all, I am Ice Gold, and for today's video I have decided to go over every single school's top 3 spells in PvP, and for some schools it's gonna be a lot easier to determine than others. I'm gonna be so real. Some schools just have far better libraries compared to the others, and I am hoping that, maybe some of these spells get tweaked. I'll definitely have to sort of talk about that when I get to specific schools, but I'm just going to go down the list. I think my character was asleep for a second, so yeah, we're going to start off with Fire, and in my opinion, the top 3 spells, in no particular order, I don't think I'm going to be doing order for this, are Ifrit, King Artorias, and Krampus, and this is why I decided to make the video, because y'all saw yesterday that I used Krampus a bunch, and this does mass, alright, for 4 pips. It's like, this is doing 630 damage split across 2 overtimes, which allows you to set up Ifrit really well, and then obviously, you can Ifrit, Surge, and Tree, if that's what you want to do, and it's just, this into this is just so good for overtime spamming, and I mean, Krampus, it'll detonate 1 overtime, which is why it has much better synergy with Ifrit, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to be putting in another Ifrit and taking out a Scion just because of that. But you get the general, you get the gist. It's, Krampus is very good. It works well with Ifrit, which then works well with Scion. So these 3 spells you can combo really well, but then King Artorias is also here, because if the person shields, they didn't. They really didn't. This card, like before you could maybe try and out Shield of Fire with Helephant, but ever since the Arc 2 spellements dropped, Helephant went from clear 3 to clear 5, and King Artorias was just like thrown out there as clear 7. There's rumors that it might become a clear 9 like soon in the next patch, so clear 7, that's pretty good, and if it ever becomes clear 9, yeah, there is no point in trying to shield over this. It's just not going to happen. So King Artorias is up here because it just ignores a full form of damage mitigation, and then Krampus and Ifrit are here just because the 2 of them coupled with one another, they just do so much damage, and there's not much else to really say about that. These 2 cards in conjunction with one another, like I said, nutty, and then King Art is just a very solid base hit. So that is going to be wrapping up the Fire School. For the Ice School, there's really not a lot to talk about. It's like, okay, what am I getting stuck on? But the Fire School had a lot of options to choose from. I didn't mention Scion as part of the list, and there were other spells like Sun Serpent that I could have made part of the list, but Ice doesn't really have much of that going for us. But I will say just absolutely for sure that Ice's best spells right now include Volcanic Golem. This is an easy number 1. If I was, ordering these, I would definitely put Volcanic Golem in number 1, because this is a double chromatic shield. This card alone is why Ice can, is favored slightly against Death in the arena right now, and Death is just absolutely nuts. So being able to do this, it's like I pack Max Golems for a reason. This card is very good. It is a good offense-defense move, and it's, I want to say, just Ice's best spell right now. So, I mean, with ease, right? And then another really good spell that Ice has is Evil Snowman. This allows us to finally ignore 1 form of damage mitigation. It doesn't really hit too hard, but, if you're going against like a Death or even a Balance, this card can really help stack up damage. And I mean, Ice versus Balance, Reg Ice versus Balance, that is pretty hopeless, but this card has made things marginally better, because if a Balance were to weakness us, we can obviously just do this and then force them to, I don't know, scales. So, it can stop a Shad when it needs to stop a Shad. So you'd love to see that. And then the third card I'm going to have to give to Abominable Weaver. This card is just so good. This is our main hit. It's not hard to see why. It's like, these 2 were up because they were good utility spells, not so much damage, but our best hit that we can rely on is Abominable Weaver. I back 5 of them. I'm using, 2 to 3 a game. It's just one of those cards. It's really good. It is our best hits, you know, we can combo it with Frostbite, and then, you know, obviously Tamauji is in there too as well, but Frostbite into A-Bomb is very, very good. And speaking of Frostbite, I did not add this because this card exists. I don't think I actually have a counter version of it, but Lightning Bats is a 2-pip counter to a 5-pip spell. I don't really think I need to say more. So that's why Frostbite is not making the list. It's too easily countered. But Abominable Weaver, that's an easy, like, really, like an easy entry onto the list. Volcanic Golem, aka Cold Iron, also an easy number 1, just because, I mean, it'll do like 1,000 and then shield you twice, which is nuts. And then Evil Snowman is also up there for sure because it will put 65% chromatic shields on if you clear 2 weaknesses. And, you know, this is really, really good against death. It's like these 2 cards specifically are why Ice could be death right now. So, yeah, Ice doesn't have a lot going for it, but what we do have going for us allows us to really, really out-tank well. And what's better than that? Right, a school that I can make a list of 3 for, but I probably can't make a list of 5 for, is going to be the Storm School. And definitely, if I can ever find my actual deck, okay, that should fix things. But Storm's best spell right now is an item card called Storm Elf. like, need I say more? This is Storm's only overtime. And it's nice. It's like a little 2-pip overtime that you can use to really pressure well. And it's just real nice. It can do like a little bit of damage, like maybe around 1,000 if you have like a Galvanic out, that type of deal. But it's just a really, really good card, and everybody needs to have a Stormy Null Dragon, or at least a pet that gives 2 of these, because this is a staple in a Storm's deck. The second best card that Storm has, I'm going to give that to Berry Surprise, just because this heals for so much. It's like, it's not as good at max level, but if you take us down to lower levels, this card is king. Storm is one of the best schools at Grandmaster, Legendary, and Exalted PvP, just because this card is a thing. At max tier, it's 860 health split across 2 heal overtimes, which is just nuts. And, you know, it's hard to argue with that. Like, that's a lot of healing, especially for a school like Storm that can, you know, do damage and also replenish its health pool, which is, although small, like, being able to replenish it is, like healing is healing. You know what I mean? So, Berry Surprise, definitely up there. And then for the third best card, I think I'm going to have to give that to Storm Owl, the B-Path version, because this, like, you know, Krampus and Ifrit, Storm Owl and Berry is Storm's Krampus and Ifrit, because Storm Owl, like it says here, it does about 1,300 damage, 1,400 if you add this all the way up, and it'll give you 3 pips back per heal over time you have on yourself, and Berry obviously gives 2. So if you use this, combine that with Adapt, like, I've done this on video before. I have taken an Adapt, I've sent a Berry, and then I've been able to Owl twice back to back, because I get 6 pips back from the Owl, 2 pips back from the Adapt, and then I gain the power pip when the round changes, so that leaves me back at 10. And this was what Storm needed. Being able to leverage heal overtimes for mass burst damage and just the ability to constantly pressure back-to-back-to-back owls is just really, really good. And then obviously, you know, if you get more than 2 heals on you, it's a max of 4, so you can technically be at 10 pips when you use this. You don't even need to have Adapt up for this. You can be at 10 pips when you use this, and if you have 4 heal overtimes on you, you can go all the way to max pips by using one of these, and it's crazy. Like, you can really just do so much with Storm Owl combos, and it's just really, really good. So, Storm Owl, that's going to be an easy entry onto the list. I just don't know what else I would put up there. Maybe Crocopatcha TCs, these do a lot. I guess Stormzilla and Catch the Day are pretty good. You know, Storm doesn't really have much going for it right now, especially because of stats. But if you can pull off a Berry Owl, that is usually enough to win you a match. I really couldn't tell you why my myth is a cat thug right now, but myth's 3 best spells, I would have to say are Fantastic Djinn, for obvious reasons. That's certainly up there. It is a shield gambit that just does absolutely mass. It's also a good base hit with just the base Djinn and 1120 damage. If you take like 2 blades on this, it'll do mass. Like, say less about that. But then the other 2 cards that definitely belong up here for Myth are Stone Colossus and Drop Air Fury. I have mentioned this before, but I don't know why the devs decided to give Myth the ability to counter both types of damage mitigation. I really couldn't tell you why, but Myth can very easily just sort of abuse that just as they see fit. You know, Myth can stone off weaknesses like it's nothing and hit for 615 damage, which is excessive, I would say. This is very, very strong. And then, obviously, you know, Drop Air Fury, that'll clear 4 shields on the target, and then it'll turn that into a regular Myth overtime, not a deferred dot like all of the other ones are for Myth. And I mean, it just does. I mean, 535 for 5 pips. It's hard to argue with that too as just a shield counter. So between the both of these, Myth is very, very good against slower paced schools. It's good against balance, you know, because you don't need that many pips to do a drop air or a stone. But these 2, just in conjunction with each other, they just do so much. And yeah, still don't know why this is in the game. And as a regular overtime, no less. So, Wiz, I guess. I don't really need to say too much in terms of life school. I don't even use the best life spells, like at least 2 of them. And it's... Life's best spells are definitely its Giga Heals, and the counters are good, but I mean, just counter the counters, right? So, yeah, Rebirth for 8 pips, this, like, especially under a Sanctuary, this is healing you for like 5k if you have good outgoing. So that's pretty crazy, especially when Life already has, you know, 15,000 health as its cap. So Rebirth is just totally nuts, especially under Sanctuary. And then the other 2 spells that sort of fall into the same category are Regenerate and Pigsy. These 2 Giga Heals, you know, it's like I saw, you know, Regenerate. The top path is PvP banned, but the bottom path will heal you for a little bit on the burst, and then 1,320 for only 5 pips. Like, that's pretty solid. And yeah, it's like spells like this are why Life is, it's like Jading is alive and well, and the Life School's wide array of cards, especially with their insane heal per pip, is just totally through the roof, for a lack of a better term. And then Pigsy, for 1 fewer pip than Regenerate, does about the same. Hard to argue with that, but there is one more card that I want to give an honorable mention to, and that is Gnomes. Just look at this. I don't think I need to say more. If you were to use Rebirth under an Adapt into a Gnomes, yeah, I don't really think I need to explain too much. I think I'm just going to move on to the Death School. Now, the Death School has some very obvious choices. This is kind of a sleeper school, I'll be so for real. Death is the best school in the meta right now. That might shake up in the next week or so. We'll have to see. The nerf that's on the horizon, I don't think it's actually going to really hurt Death too much, if I'm being real. But Death's best spells, if I had to be honest, I would say Wraith, and easy number 1 is Wraith. Just because, I mean, look at that. 575 drain for 6 pips. It's like, people have said this is 113 value per pip. That is insane. And this card has sort of held the queue hostage for about as long as I can remember, and Wraith is just so good. And even after it gets nerfed to what's looking like 430, like, it's not going to matter much if you have buffs. And as a Death Wizard, you can very easily, you know, keep a bubble up and be totally fine. You can put a virulence up and be fine. And these are still going to just still drain back so much HP. So, yeah, I mean, Wraith is an easy, easy, easy number 1. And then, I mean, tying for number 1, you know, you have the Weakness Wraith. If you use dual blades, I haven't really updated my deck too much to fit those in, but you get the idea. It's like Wraith, just in general, you hate to see it in the arena. It's no fun. But Yeah, and then also on the list is going to be Poison. This is 4 pips for 495 damage before any multipliers. So yeah, and it's a really good, you know, shield counter. It's like just a really solid overtime, and you can easily just poison into a Wraith whenever you want. And yeah, there's a lot of contenders for the number 3 spot. We have Ghoul, which will give you a 55% blade for borderline nothing. We have Grim Reader, which is the best shad in the game. We have Headless Horseman, which is a baby Grim Reader, which is just really annoying to deal with if your school does not start with an I or an M. Monster Mash, which is an anti-ore that they gave death for whatever reason. Skeletal Dragon, and by proxy Scarecrow, which are these Giga Blade counters for just absolutely nuts effects. Scarecrow's B-Path gives 40% chromatic weaknesses, while Skeletal Dragon gives, as you can see, 45% death blades. So, yeah, I do think that I am going to settle on Vampire, though. This is still just an absolutely insane spell to deal with. If you're not Ice or Myth, this spell will ruin you. Like, I mean, look at it. You know, it's like throw in some threefolds, you know, you Vampire, and it's just sort of over. Yeah, like threefold into Vampire, all of a sudden you have 2 60% chromatic weaknesses you need to take off of yourself. And not every school is as good at that. It's like most schools rely on pulling their, you know, Glacial Fortresses, Jin's Vexations, you know, that type of deal. But, yeah, it's not really too much of a surprise that Vampire is going to make the list too, because 60% chromatic weaknesses are excessive, and Vampire is getting nerfed. But it's only the damage that's getting nerfed. The weaknesses are apparently here to stay, which I really wish wasn't the case, because people, like Deaths especially, are going to lean more into this than ever. It's like before, they would just use, you know, Wraith and just break the game with it, but now I think we're going to start seeing a lot more Vampire spammers, so that's real fun. The adverse effects of a nerf, right, team? So, yeah, Vampire. Definitely a card you don't want to be on the receiving end of, especially if you've already got, you know, threefolds on you, or weaknesses just in general, like from Jin's Vexation. So, Vampire definitely going to be making this list. While we are on the topic of schools that have way too many spells that could reasonably make a top 3 list, let's talk about Balance. Yeah, Balance is no fun to fight at all. Balance just has so many cards. I think an easy number 1 is going to be Mana Burn, just because, I mean, this spell is timeless, you know, it's like 5 pips, when Balance is already run, plenty of pip conversion, and it just does, it can do a lot. Like, it'll do 1,000 damage if you're burning more than, I think, 7 pips, with max stats at max level. It's crazy. I mean, pip destruction is why Balance stays ahead, like, really well. And yeah, yeah, I hate it. Destroying 3 pips is pretty just nutty. And then another spell that's definitely making the list is Gearhead Destroyer. I don't know why Balance got a shift. I also don't know why they got a hit and Snowdrift, because this just throws off the life, ice, really just the life and ice matchups. Death can do plenty of other things, but Gearheading a Poison is very good too. That's why Balance stands a chance in that matchup. But this card makes the ice matchup just one-sided in favor of the Balance, and then against life, it's very hard to win as a life just because of this card. Trying to Giga Heal, like with a Rebirth or something, it's like if they Gearhead it, like one of the heals rather, they're gonna get a lot of value off of it. And yeah, everybody loves Gearhead. So yeah, this is one of Balance's best counter cards for obvious reasons. And then third on the list, it's like Hydra got nerfed ages ago, but the list for Balance is still brimming over. And of course, the new Hydra, Scales of Destiny, that's going to be up here, except there was one good thing about the old Hydra, and it was that you could reasonably shield against it, and be fine from the damage at least. You'd still have to deal with the shields one way or another, but at least you could block out some of the damage. You can't do that with Scales of Destiny. Yeah, because it's at least more balanced in terms of damage, but this will do 195 life damage to, you know, break any initial shields that are on you, and then it'll do the ice and balance damage, which, yeah, triple hits. Don't you love them? And then the main thing is that it will echo a shield, and it says that it will echo the shield after it does the damage, but it does not. It echoes the shield before it does the damage, so there is no use in tower shielding, especially not against a balance, because if you tower shield, they do this. If you don't tower shield, they like lower or take a big burn, or even a mock if they have the shads for it. But if you do have a shield up, this is their answer to it. And then if you try an elemental shield, they will just siphon off the fire and storm shields for the rest of the time. And if you spirit shield and the balance packs this card, you're in trouble. So yeah, you technically can mitigate the damage a balance can do, but it's just not good enough. It'll have some pretty adverse effects for you in the future. So the Scales of Destiny definitely making this list, as well as, you know, Gearhead and Mana Burn. And there's also spells like Supernova that are very, very good. I mean, balance being able to just pop an aura. And Brace especially is weak to this, because it'll go straight through the Brace. It won't even take the Brace's 20% Pierce Sponge effect. What a game we play. Supernova just does like 1,000 to your target, regardless of what aura they cast, for 2 pips. So you don't lose tempo by using it, which is crazy. So yeah, that's Wiz, I guess. And then the last spell that I want to give an honorable mention to is Spectral Blast. 4 pips for 635 storm damage is pretty crazy, especially if you have like a buff, like a Magnify or whatever. So isn't that fun? So yeah, Balance just has so many cards that's just absolutely trash on everybody else. And yeah, Balance's extensive library has been a problem with them for so long. And yeah, I mean, I'm not even mentioning Lore Master, which is just a really, really good cheap hit that Balance can use. Like, I'm not mentioning things like Nested Fury, which could act as a Spectral Blast just on steroids if you have the shads for it. And yeah, I mean, Balance is just so crazy right now, and they can have so much control over a match because of, like I said, Mana Burn, Supernova, Gearhead, Scales of Destiny, and they can just sit under Brace as well. So, Wiz, fun. But yeah, that is going to wrap up the top 3 spells, in my honest opinion, for all of the schools, with a number of honorable mentions thrown in there, just because some schools library diff others like there is no tomorrow. So, thank y'all for watching. I've been Ice Gold. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave like 50 comments for the algorithm. My Discord is down in the description if you want to chat with me some more, and I will see y'all later.